Chapter 16, Lesson 2, The Cattle Kingdom. This is going to be a short one, dealing with the life of the cowboy and its impact on American culture. So, cattle and horses had been around in the Americas really since the Spanish had brought them in the 1500s and 1600s. And cowboys lived pretty dangerous and hard lives, despite what you see in the movies. It was not all fun and chasing down cattle, although that doesn't seem particularly like fun anyhow. We're a pretty independent group overall, but and it was an opportunity to do something where people didn't boss you around as much, unless you considered the person who was the trail boss bossing you around, but you got a lot more freedom, I think, than in a lot of places. So maybe that's why people liked it. So there were many herds of cattle, and they were in the Texas ranges and some other places too. They were worth only $8 in Texas, but up in the north they were worth up to 40. So the real problem is, how do you get them up to the north? And it really started, the cattle drive started as a way to get cattle to the railroads so that they could be shipped east where they were worth more. And they started off in Texas towns and then Texas ranches, and then they just went north from there up to where the railroads were. Cowboys were from many different backgrounds. A lot of them were former Confederate soldiers that had lost pretty much everything and then looking for a new opportunity. African Americans as well. This picture is of a man named Nate Love. It's one of the more famous African American cowboys, and certainly Mexican Americans as well, that had been out herding cattle for a long time before even the area had become a part of the United States. So, but the life on the trail, about 8 to 20 cowboys, depending upon the size of the herd, were needed, and you had 2,000 to 3,000 cattle. Could last up to about 100 days, the actual traveling, because it just took a long time to make sure all the animals were heading the right way. And the chuck wagon, that was the place that provided food and came either in the back or in the front, it depended. And then it would provide food, a lot of canned goods and stuff like that. Lots of dangers, including Native Americans, stampedes, even some cattle rustlers on occasion, I suppose, but probably more cattle rustlers would be trying to steal cattle from the actual ranches down south in Texas. But cattle spook easily, and things like lightning, loud noises, you can get them all moving in one direction. And if you do that, that's going to be a problem if there's anything in that one direction that you want to keep safe, because cattle are heavy and big, and they will run over just about anything. And that's what a stampede is. And so they'll stampede over just about anything in their path. There were lots of different trails to travel up through this area. One of the more popular ones was this Chisholm Trail right here, and other places, the Shawnee Trail, the Western Trail, the Goodnight Loving Trail. And all the important thing was all these linked up to railroads. And what happened was that towns started to develop around where the railroad tracks were, and these were known as railheads. And then once the towns started going, then for the cattle to be sent to, then stockyards started to be built in places like Abilene. So cowboys could put their cattle there while waiting for the next train, and while their cattle are waiting, they have some extra money, go out to the stores, the hotels, the restaurants, and of course those saloons. And this is what developed really into the sort of the stereotypical cow town that people think about when they think about westerns. Eventually trains went south and as well, and that led to the end of the cattle drive, because now you could just pop them onto trains and send them wherever they needed to go. So the Transcontinental Railroad really made it easier to transport cattle. But there still are a lot of stories, movies that are part of the American lore and legends of the cowboy and everything like that. So it still is an important part of our culture and very revered by a lot of people. And the cattle industry still is very important today as an industry.